What a way to start off the 2023 season with a rematch from 2022 that ended in a missed field goal. Florida State taking the win over LSU 24 to 23. Do I think we see a repeat of that this year? Probably not, just the way that game ended and how crazy it was with the muff punt and everything. Do I think it'll be another great game? Absolutely. I don't think this is a game that's going to get boring or get out of hand at any point. However, I do think that it may have the same result as last year. I'll say that. Florida State coming into this game a 2.5 point dog. Obviously, not a place you want to be. You're playing in Orlando. I think last year the game was played in New Orleans, so kind of switch the home field advantage a little bit. Not too much because it's not a true home field advantage, but in the grand scheme of things, it kind of is. Now you get the Sunday night game again, 6:30 kickoff, like I said, in Orlando. The two biggest factors to me in this game and why I think it's going to be so highly competitive and no one team really has an advantage, I think both teams are in like the top 15 or top 20 in returning production on at least one side of the ball. Both teams return about 75% of their offense or more, or 75% of their team or more. And, ultimately, Florida State does have the number one team in the country when it comes to that. Take a look at their depth chart first. You got Johnny Wilson coming back at wide receiver. He put up 890 yards last year, only 5 touchdowns, which could be cause for concern. But the dude averaged 21 yards per catch last season. That is absolutely just video game numbers. Jordan Travis, 3,200 yards through the air, 24 touchdowns, 64% completion percentage, and only threw 5 interceptions. You bring in transfer wide receiver from Michigan State, Keon Coleman. You pair him with Trey Benson, who was a leading rusher last year, had 150 attempts plus. You get Jaheim Bell, the tight end from South Carolina that should come in, have just an immediate impact. And, Jordan Travis, now you've got weapons all over the field, truly. You've got 2 really good wide receivers that would both be wide receiver ones anywhere else in the country. You got a little bit of depth behind them. You see Winston Wright Jr. You got Destin Hill, the freshman. You've also got freshman wide receiver Hakeem Williams, who could come in and play immediate impact. He's not listed on this too deep, but I still think he could be a guy along with Destin Hill that makes an impact this season for you guys. LSU, on the other hand, you return most of your offense as well. So, returning production, LSU 32nd in the country, 71%. FSU number 1, 87%. They were number 2 on defense, I think number 12 on offense. LSU brought in the number 6 recruiting class, the number 2 transfer portal class. FSU number 19 recruiting and number 6 transfer. In those gets, LSU brought in 2 5-star recruits, Hurd, the offensive tackle, and Womack, the defensive lineman. Neither one of them seem to be starting, but again, chances are they will probably play a decent amount this season, especially Hurd if somebody was to go down for LSU's offense. You get Denver Harris, 5-star cornerback transfer from Texas A&M. Again, I don't see him listed on here, but that doesn't mean he's not going to play. You got Kyron Lacey back. You got Malik Neighbors back. One of the top wide receivers in college football, in my opinion, top 3. You got Josh Williams back, who last season rushed for 532 yards and 6 touchdowns. Jaden Daniels is back, 2,900 yards through the air, 885 on the ground, 28 total touchdowns last season. And then you get Greg Penn III, 78 tackles, 6 tackles for loss last season. He's listed as the 2 deep. At middle linebacker behind Harold Perkins. I think he's still going to play. He was your second leading tackler last season. You're not going to be able to keep him off of the field. Now, in terms of just talking about the game itself, I think if you're FSU, you're playing for pride at this point because ultimately everyone's kind of counting you and Clemson as the 2 top dogs in the ACC. Well, to me, this is a prove-it game for FSU. This is a game where, if you remember North Carolina in 2021, remember Iowa State in 2021, it was 2 teams that had a lot of hype. This year, those 2 teams are Florida State and Penn State. Florida State, you're going to have to come out hot. You're playing against a really good LSU team. LSU's probably going to finish top 2 in the West, could potentially win the West again. They could even potentially win the SEC, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them do it. It's a really, really good LSU team. But Florida State's really, really good too. And I think this is prove it year for Mike Norvell. This is prove it year for Florida State because I don't know if Florida State's going to have this caliber of team next year. Just all the weapons all across the field. You got Jordan Travis. You've got good running back stables. You return 87% of your defense. That is absolutely just unheard of. I mean, you return 10 out of 11 starters, I think. That's absolutely incredible. Now, like I said, for FSU, you're going to have to prove it. For LSU, it's just kind of, I don't really think you've heard much about them this preseason. You've heard about FSU. You've heard how good they're supposed to be. LSU's kind of that dark horse, and it kind of scares me because, like I said, I think Florida State should win this game. I think Florida State is ultimately the better team, but LSU is not to be slept on. You could tell me on Monday morning that LSU won this game by 2 scores, and I wouldn't be surprised. Alternatively, you could tell me that FSU won it by 10 as well, and I wouldn't be surprised either. This is just it's a heavy dog fight. I mean, this is truly one of those situations where these two teams, although they're ranked, I think, 5 and 8 at the moment, could end up in the playoffs and play each other again. LSU could go on and win the West or win the SEC. Alabama, no one really knows what to expect out of them this year. I highly doubt Georgia goes 3 in a row. I highly doubt they go undefeated in the regular season. So LSU's shot. I mean, LSU could go 12-1 and make the college football playoff. Florida State, if you lose to LSU, you probably could too. If you only lose to Clemson once but beat LSU, you probably could make it in at 12-1 as well. So Florida State, your season is going to be defined by this game. I truly believe that. I think if you come out, you come flat, you lose by 20, immediately FSU hype is just going to die down. It's going to be LSU is just what we thought they were, and FSU is a bunch of frauds. Don't take FSU seriously, yada, yada, yada. That's why I say your season hangs in the balance of this game. If you come out, you play dominant, you win, lose a close one, lose a high-scoring 48-45 game, no one's going to be upset with you at that. You lost to LSU, who played for the SEC Championship last year. You both had 10-win seasons last year. 2 really good teams, 2 juggernaut Power 5 blue blood teams going at it to open college football weekend. I don't think you can ask for anything better. Again, I'm going with Florida State to win this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think even if LSU wins, it's going to be a tight one. I'd buckle in for probably 60-plus points scored, and I'm going to just go ahead and take FSU money line just because. So let me know in the comment section how you guys see this game planning out. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys tomorrow with more game preview videos.